Something massive just happened, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss one of the biggest stories in world soccer right now. Canada just made a move that nobody saw coming, and at the same time, FIFA's 2026 World Cup is sitting on top of a pressure cooker that's about to blow. Stay with me, because in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to break down everything you need to know. And trust me, this one goes deep. So let's start right here. Omar Artan. If you haven't heard that name yet, write it down because this man is about to become one of the most talked about figures in North American soccer. Canada has officially welcomed Omar Artan, and the timing of this couldn't be more interesting. We're less than a year away from one of the biggest sporting events this planet has ever seen, the FIFA World Cup 2026, and Canada is one of the 3 host nations alongside the United States and Mexico. Every single decision being made right now, every appointment, every new face entering the picture carries enormous weight, and Omar Artan stepping into the Canadian soccer world is no exception. If you're new here and you love football, soccer news, and World Cup coverage, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss a breakdown like this. We cover this stuff in depth so you don't have to dig through 20 different sources. One click and you're locked in. Now back to Omar Artan. Who exactly is this man, and why does Canada welcoming him matter so much in this moment? Artan has been known in soccer circles as someone who moves between sports administration, player relations, and the broader ecosystem of international football. When a country like Canada, which is already under a microscope heading into a home World Cup, brings in someone new to their soccer environment, it signals one of 2 things. Either they're strengthening what's already working, or they're quietly fixing something that's been broken behind the scenes. And given everything else going on with FIFA right now, that second option deserves a serious look. Because here's where the story gets even bigger. FIFA's 2026 World Cup is not running as smoothly as the official press releases want you to believe. There are real tensions building beneath the surface, and they're starting to crack through. The crisis, and yes, I'm calling it a crisis, involves a combination of issues that are converging at exactly the wrong time. Stadia readiness, host city disagreements, ticketing controversies, and questions about how the expanded 48-team format is actually going to work in real-time logistics. These are not small problems. These are structural challenges that require immediate, coordinated answers. FIFA decided to expand the World Cup from 32 teams to 48 teams for 2026. That sounds exciting on paper, and in many ways it is. More nations get a chance to compete, more cultures, more stories, more moments. But what it also means is a tournament that is significantly more complex to run. More matches, more travel, more venues, more infrastructure demands. And when you're spreading games across the United States, Canada, and Mexico simultaneously, 3 different countries, 3 different governments, 3 different sets of regulations and expectations. The coordination required is on a level that has never been attempted before in World Cup history. Sources close to the planning process have raised concerns about whether certain venues are truly on track. Some host cities in the United States went through intense bidding processes, made expensive commitments, and are now quietly navigating disagreements with FIFA over costs and operational control. Canada's venues, particularly in cities like Toronto and Vancouver, are facing their own scrutiny over infrastructure and fan experience readiness. And Mexico, which is making a historic return as a co-host, is dealing with its own political and logistical conversations behind the scenes. This is the environment that Omar Artan is stepping into, and this is why Canada welcoming him right now raises eyebrows among people who follow the sport closely. When a country brings in a new personality into its soccer world during a period of maximum pressure, it's worth asking, what role is this person going to play? Is this about strengthening relationships with FIFA leadership? Is it about managing the public narrative around Canada's hosting performance? Or is there something even more specific happening here that we haven't been told about yet? What we do know is that Canada's soccer journey over the past few years has been nothing short of remarkable. The men's national team qualified for the World Cup in 2022 for the first time in 36 years. That alone was a cultural moment for the country, and now they're hosting in 2026. The expectation on Canadian soccer has never been higher. The pressure to perform, not just on the field, but off the field as administrators and hosts, is immense. Any new addition to that environment, whether it's a player, a coach, or a figure in the broader soccer landscape, becomes part of that high-stakes story. And let's be clear about something. FIFA as an organization has been under scrutiny for years. The 2026 World Cup was positioned as a fresh chapter, a chance for FIFA to show the world that it had cleaned up its act, that it was focused on the game, and that the biggest tournament in sports could be run with transparency and integrity. That narrative is now being tested. The internal disagreements between FIFA and certain host partners, the questions around ticket distribution, the ongoing debates about broadcast rights and commercial deals, all of this creates noise at a time when FIFA desperately needs a clean signal. The expansion to 48 teams also brings with it questions about competitive balance. Critics of the format have pointed out that with more teams comes more uneven matchups in the group stage, potentially leading to less competitive games in the early rounds. Supporters argue that the tournament's reach is more important, that bringing in nations from Africa, Asia, and the Pacific in larger numbers creates a truly global event. Both sides make valid points, and that debate is not going away. It's going to get louder as we get closer to the opening match. For Canada specifically, there's an added layer of pride and responsibility here. This is a country that has historically lived in the shadow of its neighbor when it comes to sports on the global stage. Hosting the World Cup is a statement. It says we belong in this conversation. It says we are ready for the world's biggest stage. Every delay, every controversy, every piece of negative news that comes out between now and the opening ceremony chips away at that message. So every decision, including who Canada welcomes into its soccer world, matters more than it normally would. Omar Artan's arrival into this space at this moment tells us that things are moving behind the scenes in ways that don't always make it into the headlines. The people who run soccer at this level don't make moves randomly. There's strategy involved. There's positioning. There's a reason why certain names surface at certain times. And in a landscape where FIFA's World Cup preparations are drawing more questions than answers, paying attention to those names and those movements is how you stay ahead of the story. What happens next is something we're going to be watching very closely. Whether Omar Artan's role in Canadian soccer becomes more defined in the coming weeks, whether FIFA manages to get ahead of the growing concerns around the 2026 tournament, and whether Canada can deliver on the enormous promise of being a World Cup host. These are all stories that are still being written, and we'll be here to cover every chapter. If this video gave you something to think about, drop a comment below right now. Tell me, do you think Canada is truly ready to host the World Cup? And do you think FIFA can get its act together before 2026 kicks off? I want to read your thoughts. And if you found this breakdown valuable, share it with someone who follows soccer. Because this is exactly the kind of story that gets buried under the noise and it deserves more attention. Hit that share button and help us get this out there. Until next time, stay informed, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next one.